as a kid. I can't honestly remember not going to church. Experienced, a good amount of favor, if I'll be honest. Things had really honestly gone the way that I had wanted them to. 4.0 GPA, I had 32 scholarships from all over the country, right? Most of the schools in the SEC, Midwest, Pac-12, Big Ten. I'm going to be a freshman All-American. Second year, I'm going to be a first team All-Pac-12. Third year, I'm going to be a first team All-American consensus. I'm going to be a first receiver pick to be a top 10 pick. And I'm going to make millions of dollars. Took it for granted. Started asking questions. Why can't I drink? Why can't I hang out / hook up with girls? All my other friends are doing it. Why have they been hiding this from me all this time? I wanted to be the best. Whether we're talking about football, whether we're talking about girls, I wanted to be number one. Wait, hold on, that's not part of the plan. Nope, not going to do that, okay? Yeah. I'm going to get there when I want to, how I want to. And if you won't give me what I want, I'll find something or someone that will. I wasn't like sleeping at night. I was having anxiety and panic attacks. I wasn't doing well in school. I was never fully present. Boom. You are going to suffer. It will be excruciating. It will be difficult and it will be painful. And you are going to want to quit. And even if you've gotten what it is that you thought you wanted, after a while, it loses its luster. And you're not smarter than God. The older I've gotten, the more that I've realized that life is beautiful as it is. It's our additions to life that have really subtracted from its experience. This is where I've always wanted to be.
Challenge yourself constantly.
You have to be a little bit patient.
I felt like I was in a hole looking up.
The whole idea is you have to become content in singleness.
I'd be lying if I said I haven't fired off some Instagram DMs.
The word dating is not mentioned in the Bible.
I dedicated my life at Tomorrow World to Jesus.
Welcome to the Single Man Podcast, where we delve into candid conversations with Christian men about their journey to faith, advice for their younger selves, and navigating dating. With a heart to reach men from all walks of life, dive into real stories of redemption, growth, and the hope found in following Jesus. I'm your host, Carlton French, a 29-year-old single Christian, and I'm excited for you to listen to this week's episode. Let's jump into it. Hey, it's Carlton French. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Single Man Podcast. I am so excited to be sitting down here today with my good friend Josh Imatorbhebhe. Josh, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited for the audience to be able to hear a little bit about your story and how you've navigated faith and dating as a single man.
Yeah.
And been awesome getting to know you, Josh, and being friends for the last year and a half or so. First met through some mutual friends of ours in Atlanta when we were both working at Deloitte.
Yeah.
And you were living in New York City and just had come back for the holidays and met out at a place in Atlanta, which was awesome. Yeah. And just seeing how you've been able to navigate Deloitte, and now I've got another great job, which is awesome. And hearing a little bit more about kind of how you've grown in your relationship with God and how your time being a college athlete has kind of shaped that has been really cool to witness. So I'm excited for the audience to get to know you a little bit today. Yeah. Josh, I'll just do a little background on you so people can get to know you a little bit more. Yeah. Josh is 26, lives now in Atlanta, just moved back to Atlanta from New York. So welcome back.
Thank you.
And hobbies, you're telling me you love just quality time with your people, friends and family, cooking, recently getting into pickleball, some board games.
Yeah.
Love it, man. Yeah. So anything you want the audience to know a little bit more about you? Or?
Yeah, I mean, that basically sums it up. I feel as if the older I've gotten, the more that I've realized that, life is beautiful as it is. Even the Bible, it says, surely God has made man upright. It's them that set out their own schemes, right? So God made life and called it good. And it's our additions to life that have really subtracted from its experience. So I feel as if as I've gotten older and I've kind of been able to deconstruct some of the additions that I've had, the more simple life has been and the more beautiful it's become. So yeah, just learning to enjoy life as it is.
Yeah. Amazing, Josh.
Yeah.
In terms of this last week, so what's maybe been kind of a favorite, least favorite part of this last week, just so the audience can get to know, you a little bit more?
Yeah. Favorite part of this last week. Not a ton has gone on. Started a new job recently, a couple of weeks ago, and we're still kind of in that our onboarding phase. And we had flown out to San Francisco not too long ago, and it was cool. San Francisco is good. to an extent,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, they have their issues that they're dealing with over there. But nevertheless, it's always good to kind of, be able to get out of the scenery that you've been in a little bit and, kind of shake things up and experience kind of a different city for a bit. But
Yeah.
the high I'd say is just, kind of being able to travel or whatever and have this entrance into this new experience. Although, and I wouldn't call it a low necessarily, but obviously, like, right, when you're kind of starting something new, there's always that learning curve, and you like to feel like you're a subject matter expert or what is it you're doing, and you like to feel proficient. And
Yeah.
you don't feel that way, it can definitely take a, temporary hit at your self-esteem, definitely, and kind of the confidence that you're able to bring to work and every day. So just that, right? But again, I understand that this is just a phase and just a point in time in my transition. So yeah, just kind of dealing with all that stuff and waiting for all that to settle, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great, man. Well, congrats on the new job. Don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that.
Appreciate it.
Jumping into things, Josh. So, we talk a little bit about guys' stories, how they came to know Jesus. Did that kind of start from a young age for you, or was that later in life? What's it kind of look like?
Yeah, I think that my parents did a good job of introducing me to the Lord. When I was young, as a kid, I can't honestly remember not going to church. I can't honestly remember like not growing up to where that was like the main influence of the house. I mean, before we went to school, like parents would like read the Bible to us every single day for like, 30 minutes, right? And really made sure that they instilled kind of the mind of Christ, right, into us, just so that we had an understanding. And we just developed kind of understanding of like right and wrong and things of that nature. So I got baptized when I was 13. And that became my personal relationship with the Lord, and frankly experienced, a good amount of favor, if I'll be honest with you, right? Like when I was in middle and high school, I felt like everything I did seemed like God's hand was behind, did well in school, did well in sports, and just had a lot of opportunity created for me, right? And I realized that to be the hand of God looking back. But yeah, kind of, I guess, took it for granted. Started asking questions as I was like a senior in high school, like, why can I do this? Like, why can I do that? Like, why can I drink? Why can't I, hang out / hook up with girls? Like, what's the whole thing there? Like, all my other friends are doing it.
Right.
Not realizing like that was my protection, right? In the Bible, it says, he who quarries a stone will get cut by it, and he who breaks through a wall will get bitten by a serpent. And I had these walls, and I thought that I was boxed in. Well, those walls are protection. On the other side of that wall is a serpent that will bite you. And eventually, I think that's what I ended up experiencing. So just learning just the role that my parents and that infrastructure played in my life has helped me to kind of have that as my own conviction as I've gotten older.
Yeah. I feel like that's a lot of guys' stories, and my story to a degree also, where I was raised in church until 7th grade and felt like I had these kind of like walls around me, and get to college. Oh, there's like all these other things I can do
Without a doubt.
and like not really seeing any repercussions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's honestly, I bring it's a Bible. There's a Bible verse in there that it says, because the execution of an evil work is not delivered speedily, men have fully set it in their hearts for them to do evil. Meaning that because you don't receive the rewards of your sin immediately, people think that there is no penalty, right? Like there is no repayment. So you're like, I'm just going to continue to sin until boom, there's a fine that you can't pay and you have to work like a slave, right? It feels that way, at least, until you can kind of get out of some of these addictive kind of tendencies that you've gotten yourself into. So, yeah.
So, okay, senior year, you're starting to see these walls kind of tangibly. You're starting to, maybe I should break through them. Like, what,
I just started to question, right? Because I mean, did well in high school, like I said. I mean, did good in school, and became a recruit. He was recruited from a lot of different schools and stuff like that, and started to experience a certain, I guess, degree of notoriety, if you will. And a lot of the peers that I'd had that I was getting recruited with, I'd go on recruiting visits to different schools around like the country, and all these guys would talk about like their roster and have screenshots of girls that they've hooked up with, pictures that they were getting, things of that nature. And I was over here with nothing. And I kind of felt like I wanted to compete in that realm too, right? Like I didn't just want to compete on the field. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the preeminent one in every single situation that I was in. Whether we're talking about football, whether we're talking about girls, I wanted to be number one. And I felt like there was a deficit here. I'm like, well, how can I kind of get number one in this? Not knowing that that for me, I guess the restrictive whatever was enabling me to have life right in other areas of my life. And so yeah, definitely I call it peer pressure, but not wanting to be the odd one out. And that's where the seed started. And it was my senior year of high school. The questions started to come as to kind of like, all right, like, why can't I do this too?
Yeah. I feel like that is a lot of guy stories and young men's stories, single men's stories is, well, what's everyone else doing around me, And like, okay, I'm starting to compare to what's happening with Jim, with Mike, with Sam. And
Right.
then, oh, okay, they're all doing this, then maybe I should do that too.
Yeah.
I gotta compete, like you said.
Without a doubt. And the thing is, like, it wasn't like I wasn't living by my own convictions, right? Like those were my parents' convictions. That was the word's conviction, but I hadn't actually experienced it to be true, right? So you're like, all right, like why? Now, after you again experience the bite of the serpent, experience the venom coursing through your veins, and you're starting to experience the death that follows as a result of sin, right? Desire is sin, and then sin is death. Then you realize, oh, okay, there are consequences for your sin, but I hadn't yet had that experience. It wasn't a conviction for me, right? So I was always questioning, all right, why? It wasn't really fully my faith. Yes, I had a relationship with God, but to a degree, it wasn't deep enough to where I had trusted him as my Lord and Savior. It was just, I knew him as the supreme being over my life that I, had believed in, but
It was like a head knowledge.
yeah, it wasn't, we hadn't had those characterizing experiences for me to be able to know that he is really in control and he is who he says he is. So
That's great. So then you go to college, you're high recruit,
right.
you play in football. What's kind of your college experience like?
Yeah, man. I mean, I was really just kind of like one track minded. I wanted to go, not to say that, like, I mean, like obviously like focused on like my school. Like I definitely did that, but in my mind, really up until that point, things had really honestly gone the way that I had wanted them to. And again, I wasn't realizing this to be the hand of God, but like I'd said, right, like in middle school, that's when I started really, things started to crescendo. It's my first time that I had, the principal's honor roll, which was like all A's over a 95. And then from then on, it just really just kept that to where like graduated high school with like a 96, 97 grade average, right? 4.0 GPA, unweighted, had 32 scholarships from all over the country, right? Most of the schools in the SEC, Midwest, Pac-12, Big Ten, all the schools, right? So it experienced like a big degree of success, and it thought that, okay, life is just going to go the way that I want. As long as I put in the work, it's going to go exactly the way that I want. And I never really knew what failure was. I'd see other people feel like, I don't know what it is. Maybe you're not working hard enough. So in my mind, I was all right, I'm going to get to USC. That's the school that I did my undergrad in and played football in California. I'm going to be a freshman All-American. Second year, I'm going to be a first team All-Pac-12. Third year, I'm going to be a first team All-American consensus. I'll be a first receiver pick to be a top 10 pick. And I'm going to make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I frankly had every reason to believe that, because frankly, that's the trajectory that my life was going at, experienced some notoriety from some things that I was able to do from external stuff. And, I was like, yeah. And I had the belief, I had the confidence, I had the ability, I had the intelligence. Like I had all of the ingredients, so to speak, to bake this cake, if you will. And, so yeah, it was really mine to lose. And again, I just had a really good setup, but freshman year thinking, okay, cool, boom, freshman All-American, all these things. Freshman All-American, I'm not getting on the field the first 4 games. And then after then they tell me that I'm redshirting, right? So I'm like, wait, hold on, that's not part of the plan, right? So then you got, what's going on here, right? Not really realizing that God might have been trying to humble me. Bible, it says, humble yourself in the sight of the Lord in due time. In due time, him, not you, he will lift you up. I didn't want to do that. And I wanted to stay high above the clouds, right? Live as number one. Didn't understand what was going on there. And again, there's a spiritual desensitivity that starts to occur when you're in rebellion or in the direction of rebellion. So God starts to speak to you. He doesn't speak English. He speaks in circumstances, consequences, happenings, etc. And you have to have the spiritual sensitivity to realize exactly what God's telling you. And that was God telling you, hey, be humble. I'm the one that brought you here. But I was like, nope, not going to do that. Okay. I'm going to get there when I want to, how I want to. And if you won't give me what I want, I'll find something or someone that will. And again, that's when that seed of, why not started to kind of grow into actual action and activity. And yeah, started to, again, become more curious about the ways of the world.
Yeah. Wow. So when you start to get curious, okay, freshman All-American, not really going according to plan, red shirt, what was it that you kind of turn to after that point?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, like, you're looking for validation. You're redshirting. Okay, boom. I'm not going to get on the field the whole year. Figure this out week 4. What's the purpose of going hard at practice if I'm just going to, be at home, when they're traveling? So we had this thing, me and my buddy, we called it, so the Greek life, the street that the Greek life is called Fraternity Row, right? That's what we call it at USC.
Yeah.
We have like all the fraternities and the sororities that are on like one line, right? And while they were on the road, we were on the row, right? We were at these parties, right? Getting in front of girls and all of these things and really cashing out on our celebrity, so to speak, because it's like, all right, well, the value that we came here for, we're not able to receive appreciation. And, people know us, they like us, there's social capital that we're able to bring to these things. So yeah, that's where we'll get our validation in lieu of us not being able to perform on the field. So yeah, that was just my mindset. And obviously in these situations and wow, okay, I'm getting a lot of attention, right? Like you're tall, you're big. Maybe some people think that you're good looking or attractive and you're just, yeah, heck yeah. Like I want more of this. And it becomes kind of a drug, right? The attention and the appreciation and in some senses the praise, right? Nobody wants to say that, but people definitely, and I say this humbly, right? Look up to you when you're a college athlete in some senses, right? And
Right.
yeah, definitely can be an intoxicating feeling. So
Yeah. So you start to taste that.
Yeah.
I guess, did you then go like into that more?
Yeah,
and
no,
then
so,
like,
yeah.
how did you kind of get out of it? Ultimately?
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, yeah, everything obviously happens incrementally. That's the enemy's strategy. If he showed you exactly what your fate would be all at once, obviously, you wouldn't go there. There's to be a lure. And you look at like the demoniac in the Gerasenes, right? The guy that's crying out of the tombs, cutting himself, what have we to do with you, Jesus, son of the living God, right? Like when he first took that step in that direction, the enemy didn't say, oh, you're going to be naked in the tombs, cutting yourself, right? Like the enemy said, oh, look, this small compromise right here,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, checking out that girl for too long. That's not a big deal, right? But then that look turns into a stare, right? Now that stare turns into fantasizing, and that fantasizing turns into actual activity, right? So it's always a seed that's sown. And I guess I don't even know how I got here from there, but yeah, it started out small, just to where cool, like boom, I was in the scene. And again, desire gives birth to sin, and then sin gives birth to death, right? If you're around something long enough, you slowly start to kind of, just assimilate to it and want it, right? To where, again, you're around girls are pretty at USC, and, you're around them a lot, and they look at you, they like you, they're attracted to you, and you slowly start to become more attracted to them, and then you slowly start to want, them to like you more, and they become, I'd say honestly, frankly, a focal point of your life and your experience, right? So it looks like that, and then, progress from one thing to another, where it's like, okay, like this girl's really pretty, like I want to hook up with her or kiss her or whatever it is, and just kind of snowballing effect into whatever that could eventually, go into. So
Yeah. So then at some point you kind of get out of that phase, or what did that look like?
I mean, obviously, and it's a hard thing because you don't even want, when you're in it though, like it's like at first, especially initially, it's not like you're trying to get out, right? Like you're there and you're kind of enjoying it and you're not seeing the repercussions of it. In fact, I remember the first time that I had drank alcohol and it's gotten like drunk and experienced, I was like, why have they been hiding this from me all this time? I remember that was my subconscious thought. I entered into like a new world.
When was that you first
This
had?
was, my freshman year, bro. Like, again, a couple weeks after I figured I was redshirting, I said, screw it. I'm going to go out. And, I remember I was at this, party. Was it Signu? I think they're having like their register or whatever it was. And, there's this pretty girl or whatever. And I don't know, like I thought she was really pretty and I wanted her to kiss me or whatever. And she said, no, not unless you dance with me. And I'm self-conscious, right? Like I really care about the way that I present myself to other people. I think that's something that's always been very important to me. So it's like, I don't want people staring at me. I'm already kind of, bigger than everybody else here. If I start dancing, you're doing one move, everybody's eyes start looking, and I'm like, I get self-conscious. Like I need a way to kind of be relieved of my inhibitions here. And that's what people do alcohol for, right? It helps them to kind of lower their consciousness so they're not aware of people's perception of them, whatever they call liquid confidence. That's the best way I've heard it, right? Not that I lack confidence, but just you can definitely get self-conscious in a place where you feel as if like your image matters. So anyway, I was like, all right, well, this girl wants to do it. I kind of kiss her. I guess this is a good, compromise. let me kind of take, a little bit of a sip. And they had this thing called Four Loko. I don't know if people remember what Four Loko is, but it was like an energy drink slash
Not
like
good.
vodka. Yeah. And it's very sugary too. And it's the worst hangover you can imagine. Oh my gosh. We called it pull trig. That's where you have to like hit your uvula to throw up because it just would stay in your system for days.
Oh,
Unless
gosh.
you got like what do they call it? Expedialite or whatever they call it. The
Pedialyte.
Pedialyte, yeah, Pedialyte.
Yeah.
You're drinking like a lot. Well, anyway, so took my first sip of Four Loko, and I didn't really know how the drunk process works. Supposedly, you have to really pregame to get a good blood alcohol concentration in order to kind of up your levels, and you'll just sip usually during the thing. I had drank no alcohol beforehand, so I took a sip. Waited like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Didn't like I was like nothing's happening. Right? What's going on here? So I took another sip, right, and very conservative. Nothing happened. All right, whatever. So I just literally downed 1 drink, 2 drinks, then 3 drinks, and then I kind of like walked my way back over, and I'm like, dude, nothing's happening. And then slowly but surely, like your consciousness just slowly start to change. I'm like, whoa, what is going on here? I felt it in real time.
Yeah.
Just a change. And I'm like, whoa. And then before you know it, you forget about everything else that's going on except for what's in front of you. I felt like I was fully locked in the moment. The girl's dancing with me, I'm dancing with her, etc. Start kissing her, start making out, all these things. And, whatever. And then, wake up the next morning, I was like, man, that was awesome. You know what I mean? Truly, at first, like it was like, wow, that was so sick, right? Like that's such an amazing time. I'm looking forward to doing that next weekend, right? And that's how people get into the cycle of chasing the highs, and you have the diminishing marginal return to where it's not ever as high as it was before. And in fact, in order you to even give yourself an opportunity or a chance to reach that level of height, you have to kind of do not double, but more. I have to drink not the same, but a little bit more than I did before in order to give myself a chance of getting closer to that high. And that's how you develop these addictive tendencies, whether it's alcoholism, whatever it is. So,
Yeah. So then, okay, you have the first taste. This is like such a great high. And then was it at some point where you were like, this isn't actually getting me what I want?
it takes a while to get there.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
It takes a while to get there, right? You have to have a reason to repent, right? You do, because it's not of your own volition. Oh, I'm just going to repent. Like, no, like you have to truly like be like, yeah, I've seen something that has caused me. Like, what did it take the prodigal son? It took him he was eating pods from the pig's pen. It has to take certain eye-opening experiences for you to realize, right, the weight of your own sin. And again, it doesn't happen. You don't plant a seed and then the next day reap the fruit. It takes time.
Yeah.
Right. But these things are very hard to reverse. So it didn't happen my freshman year. It didn't happen my sophomore year. I'd say really it was right before I left to go to before the last year at SC that I'd had before I finished my college football career at University of Illinois. That's when I really started to realize, wait, I'm in this position. I mean, I knew what I was doing was wrong, but like it didn't really hit me to where I was ready to repent, to where like I'm in this position because of my own sin and unwillingness to kind of do things God's way.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even just like the outward experience of success. It was the inward condition of my soul. Like I wasn't like sleeping at night. I was having anxiety and panic attacks. I wasn't doing well in school. I was never fully present, right? Like the spiritual death happens inwardly and then outwardly. So it's not that like, oh, like externally things were going wrong. No, internally things were going wrong. And as a result of that, externally things started to go wrong, right? Because in the Bible, it says, I pray for you that you prosper as your soul prospers. So a lot of the external prosperity, especially in Christians that you see, is a result of internal prosperity, right? It's an expression usually of the kingdom of heaven that has been formed within, right? So yeah, man. Definitely didn't start to feel the consequences, or started to feel the consequences immediately, but they didn't start to become as public or publicly recognizable to me until later on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps some of the listeners, know about what some of the dangers might be to, doing that first drink or, dipping your toe in the water. And ultimately it's going to lead to, like you said, a point of diminishing returns and ultimately like this almost dissociation with yourself, it sounds like. Yeah. So what would you say maybe is different about your life now, right now that you're no longer kind of in that mindset and you actually have this relationship with Jesus where like almost maybe he allowed you to maybe experience that, right? to be
Yeah.
able to be at this point and be on the other side of that.
Yeah, man, I'm in shalom, bro. Like I'm in shalom, bro. Like I'm in peace, bro. Like I'm good, man. Like I'm in the flow
Mm,
of life,
mm,
right? Like
yeah.
I'm where I need to be. I'm who I need to be. I feel as if like I'm becoming more connected to God as the days go on, right? Jesus's prayer to God, was like he prays that we become one. He's speaking to the Father, that we become one as he is one with God. That's his prayer, as we increasingly become more like him. I feel like that's like where my life is going. I just feel like more integrated with God and just growing in just the fruits of the Spirit. But yeah, just definitely sensing kind of, because in the Bible it says the kingdom of heaven isn't with observation, the kingdom of heaven is within, right? So it's in an internal reality that you have
Yeah.
that eventually becomes an external reality, right? Like
Yeah.
that's how the kingdom of heaven is brought to earth. So just experiencing that creation of the kingdom of heaven, bro. Shalom, meaning peace, unity, wholeness, completion, joy, clarity, wisdom, things money can't buy. These are treasures, right? That are hidden in the earthen vessel.
Yeah.
And the Bible said the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure chest that's found in a field.
Mm,
And for joy over that field, over that treasure, the man goes and sells everything that he has and buys that field so he can own that treasure. So for me, it's the most precious thing I have in my life, right? Is the relationship I have with the Lord, because nothing is different, but then everything is different because you're different. Your perception and your experiences of people are different.
yeah.
It's just like the greatest change ever. The greatest, experience I feel like you can have is a life seen through God's lens.
Yeah.
And you have access to that as you are growing in maturity and holiness and godliness. So
Yeah. Yeah. So great, man. Let's say there's a guy that, is in that position now where, okay, he's at college or he's, experiencing the joys of, or maybe the perceived joys of drinking or sex, women. What advice would you have for that person, or maybe that version of yourself, if you could go back and talk to, freshman, sophomore year, Josh?
sin always promises you a lot and gives you a little. You always get a lot less than what it is that you bargain for, and you get further and further away from the quality that you desire, right? And that can be in a lot of things. The quality, frankly, and I say this honestly, I'm sure there are some girls that might watch this, like the quality of, if you're hooking up with girls consistently, right? Like the actual quality of girls that you will have access to will diminish. And this doesn't mean in regards to like looks, but in regards to character, right? Because you start to attract what you are, right? And you start to realize like that's what appreciates in life. In the Bible, it says, you know, uh, charm is deceptive, beauty is fleeting, but a woman that, fears the Lord is to be praised.
Yeah.
These are wife characteristics that, not that you don't have access to, but like you won't be able to, frankly, fully realize, because you're not gonna be able to attract that because you're not that yourself. So it's just like you don't see anything maybe externally happening, but your character is starting to corrode. And that is what will ultimately be responsible for every good thing that you have in your life, right? It's a character that attracts a reality. It's a character that attracts certain relationships. So I'd say that like you're diminishing your character, man, and you think that, oh, I'll just one day just snap my fingers and change. No, you won't, because you have these tendencies that you've built up. And let's say like you're a sexual addict, oh, we'll just get in a relationship and all change. No, it won't. It'll actually get harder because now that you're in this relationship with someone that you supposedly love, you still have the wandering eye, right? And you still have the right, and you're fighting, and it just takes one weak moment. It takes one day at your job where your boss yells at you because you didn't complete something on time, and now you're feeling duress and you're looking for a way out, looking for an outlet, and oh well, let me just hook up with this girl or watch this pornography, and then boom, it just, you're in a cycle of something that it's going to be very hard to get out of, right? So yeah, I'd say that that's what it is, man. Again, these things happen at a very subconscious level, and that's how the enemy works, man. And he doesn't show you his damage until it's been done. And I mean, there's a reason why this word right here, right? There's a reason why this word right here has lasted for millennia, because it's time tested and it's true. You're not smarter than God, right? Like a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just sin and then I'll repent. Well, no. Wait, sin and I'll ask for forgiveness later. Yeah, well, okay. Well, do you think that God doesn't like know that people think that I'll just sin and then just ask for? No. You'll still slowly create a reality for yourself that you're going to wish you weren't in. And that's out of God. That's God in kindness. Like that's out of God's kindness and love and mercy. So you can see that there are consequences for your sin. And just like there are consequences for your sin, there are also consequences for your obedience, right? Like there are good things that follow those that,
Mm.
choose the way of the Lord. So you'll have something to look forward to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah, I think jumping into around your kind of dating history and how that's kind of changed in terms of your view to dating. Would love to touch on that now. So, did you date at all like in high school or college? Was it just kind of all
Yeah, didn't date in high school. Was on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
Didn't date in high school. Didn't date in college, really,
Yeah.
honestly. Really never honestly have had like a real like girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like a real one. Like I mean I've had, you can say one kind of, but it didn't really last long. But I'm talking about like full out dated for like a couple of years, right? Like never really had that.
Yeah.
Right? Never really had that. But yeah.
That's kind of similar to me where I had my first girlfriend. We dated for 6-7 months or so. But yeah, never been in like a long-term relationship, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that might be maybe different for guys to hear, like, oh, seemingly two, successful guys, like they are single in their mid to late 20s. And okay, maybe I don't need to be like consumed with where is my next date going to come from? Where's my next relationship going to come from?
Right.
Where's my next, sense of validation from women going to come from in a way?
Yeah.
And so I think that's really cool. How do you kind of navigate it now, being 26, where do you like desire to be married one day?
Yeah,
or-
without a doubt, I definitely do. I think that you want to be prepared, right? You want to be prepared to be in relationships, and that can look like a lot of things,
Mhm.
right? Certain responsibilities, certain habits, certain characteristics that you want God to develop. And look, you're not going to ever be perfect, but I think that there are better times to be in a relationship than others. Like again, if you're battling sexual addiction or pornography or something like that, which a lot of us I'm sure have, I would say that that's something that I have wanted to and am wanting to and see increased deliverance over before I get into a relationship, and just have a heart that's pure. And I think that again, like I said, it does a lot of things, but it enables you to see like women as like souls, right? You don't see body parts, right? Or certain things that you're attracted to. You start to see a soul, and that's where love is found, right? Like love is found at a deeper level than that. And I think that you're actually more, prepared or positioned to receive and give that love because it's a pure relationship. So I think that for me, my focal point, at least for the last, I'd say 4 years or so, has just been like, obviously I'm not a saint, right? Like we all mess up,
Yeah.
we all fall short.
Right.
It's just been like, it's just really just pursuing God in purity, right? And making sure that like I'm growing in that, and I'm just preparing myself to be able to be in a relationship with someone and give them the best of what I got. So
Yeah, that's great. So really almost turning it from an external focus of what can women bring me, but what can I bring to a
Without a
relationship
doubt.
one day?
yeah, I mean, you seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added into you because you become a light, right? And what does light do? Light attracts. You start to attract those things that others desire. And again, that's what Matthew 6:33 says, right? And that's not to say again that your life will automatically become great, but you'll start to experience Jehovah Jireh as provider, as opposed to you wanting things and you having to go and get them. That's how the pagans live. Jesus says this in the Bible. What am I going to eat? What am I going to wear? Where am I going to go? But us that are children of, our Father, it says, look, like the lilies of the field, they don't toil, they don't spin, right? And Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed like one of these. So if you're truly in the flow of life and in the lane, in the realm of God, your life will play out, and it should play out smoothly, where you don't have to reach and grab and nickel and dime and scratch and claw in order to get increase in this life, right? So I think again, that's something that I'm trying to kind of connect to and
Yeah.
really trust God in.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you think about, being single and, okay, working on yourself, keeping this internal focus in mind? At what point do you feel like is it just going to happen one day? Like this girl's going to appear, or like, what do you feel
I
like?
don't really know how it's going to happen, frankly. Obviously, I haven't gotten to the other side.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, man. I don't know if that should, like, and I'm guilty of this,
Mm.
or like be the focal point
Yeah.
per se,
Mm.
because you don't your satisfaction like shouldn't come from something that you don't have. Otherwise, you're not going to be satisfied, right? Like you
Mm.
should be able to abide in satisfaction, right? And the Bible says a good man is satisfied from above. And what makes us good? It's our eyes on Christ, right? Like that's what enables us to be good in God's sight. So you can live life in satisfaction, and then the girl, when she comes, can be a bonus,
Mm.
right? And I think that's what God's just testing you. It's just a test, right? And I really do believe that it really truly is just a test of your faithfulness, and he can more than deliver on his promise. So yeah, I just think finding your satisfaction in God and then allowing her to be a bonus or a blessing, I think, is where we all want to get to. You know, in the
Yeah.
Bible
Yeah.
it says
Yeah.
godliness with contentment is a great gain,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
When God is your content,
Yeah.
right? He's what you have, and he's really honestly all you need. So yeah, you said like at what point, like I'm not, necessarily the judge of it. You just are open. You're growing in godliness. God's growing different qualities and characteristics in you, growing to different desires. I think that's what God does. I think what He does is He repairs your desires,
Mm.
right? To where I was reading in Peter, because before I was like, all right, what do you look for in a girl, right? Somebody would ask, and
Yeah.
you don't really have people don't really have answers. Oh, a girl that's this or a girl that's that. But the truth is, I'm looking for a girl that has X color hair, X colored eyes, this height, right?
Mm.
Very physical, very much so characteristics.
Yeah.
But I was reading in Peter the other day, and it's like, oh, this is what I'm looking for. And in the Bible, it says it's speaking to women. I think it's in First Peter 3. I can't remember, but it's like, or First Peter 3. It's saying, and he's speaking to women. Do not let your adornment be merely outward, arranging of the hair, wearing of gold jewelry, putting on fine apparel. Rather, let it be in the hidden person of the heart, with a gentle and quiet spirit, with the incorruptible beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is precious in the sight of God. Right. So think of it like, I don't know, for me personally, girls that have gentle and quiet spirit, that are that are humane, that are very humble.
Yeah.
Right. Like those types, you start to desire those qualities and characteristics, and God will first put the desire in you before He attracts it to you. I really do believe that. I mean, so and then Psalms 37 verses 4, delight yourself in the Lord and He will give you the desires of your heart. Right. He starts to give you what it is that you truly desire. Because I think that we don't know what we want. We want this, we want that, we want this, we want that. But what you truly desire is something that God can truly give and realize in you and attract into your life. So yeah, I think that that's also what's happening kind of in this transitional process as you're growing in holiness and you're becoming more godlike. You're starting to have desires that He's placed in you. And, at the end of that will be greater levels of fulfillment.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. That's, I think kind of where I'm at now too, just content internally. And
Right.
then when, or if, I were to meet someone, it would be like a wow kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, maybe this could be better with her in terms of ministry and like what I feel like God's called me to do in life.
Yeah.
If I have her doing it with me, as opposed to just, okay, keep doing it all on my own. And right now I'm content, all on my own. I think getting to that point of contentment is what God wants you to do. And then when that time comes where He brings someone else into your life, it's going to be like a blessing, like a bonus, not like this is going to complete you.
Without a doubt.
Mhm.
Yeah. Someone once said like God gives you what you want when you stop wanting it, right?
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's true, because He wants to be number one in your life. And if you have Him and you're not content and you feel like something, because usually what He's going to give you something, another idol, something for you to idolize, something to take His place, right? Something to take His time and the attention that you should be giving to Him to that. And then eventually your life starts to kind of fall out of order because it's not in order. So yeah, I think a lot of things are the reason as to why He makes us wait. So
Yeah, that's great, man. Do you have, I know you've talked a lot about, scripture throughout the episode. Do you have maybe like a verse for the season of life or just your life in general that kind of comes to mind you want to share with the audience?
there's a lot that I guess would come to my mind right now. But I'd say like, Psalms 46:10. I think that's something that I knew, but this is something like I'm starting to believe, and believe in the sense of, not that I didn't believe it before, but believe, the word believe means something that you live by. Does that make sense? It's something that you believe so much that it's a reality for you. That's what believe means. So like I knew it, but like now it's like something that I'm living from, right? It's a source that I'm drawing from and something that I'm actually able to actively experience and live out in my life, right? But it says, be still and know that I'm God, right? Your stillness is a reflection of the fact that you're not in control. So just being still before the Father and realizing in the Bible, it says like, when go before God, like, let your words be few. He's in heaven, you're on earth, right? Like, and you like, I used to make like my prayer for the most part, just me like talking and, say all these things and pray all this stuff or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's God's words that make me come to life and not my own, right? So just being, still before him and just kind of allowing him to minister, because the stiller you are, the clearer you see. Like, that's just the fact of the matter. If you're so frantic, and it's very hard to sense the subtle, the nudge, the whispers, the very subtle sensations that God's able to give your way and give you direction with. So just learning to do that, I think life has been a lot easier. It enters you into that flow, so to speak. And the best picture I can give you of that flow of life is, some of us here, I'm sure, have watched Finding Nemo before. And, when they meet the turtles in the first Finding Nemo, like squid or whatever his name is, there's the big older turtle and then there's a smaller turtle, whatever. They're in this thing called the Eastern Australian Current, the EAC.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like the rush and like the flow, and that's where life is exciting and that's where life exists. And you can enter into that, right? And I mean, God even gave me this poem that kind of makes that make sense, right? And truly, and I call it the dancing soul, when you finally reached rhythm in life with God. And it goes, in tuned with life and in its beat, you're dancing now in awesome feet. The world below will stop and stare and marvel at the one who dared. And the dare is the dare to trust God, right? In tuned with life, you're in tune, life meaning God, the author of life, you're in tuned with him, and now you're in its beat. You're in his beat, you're on rhythm, you're dancing now as a result of you being in rhythm with God. You're starting to dance, right? It's an awesome feat. The world below, meaning people around you, are going to stop and stare, and they're going to marvel at you because you chose to dare to believe God. So yeah, it's an amazing thing, bro. Just learning God's way, learning God's rhythm. I want to be natural. I want to be like nature. I want to grow and live and exist like nature. I don't want to have to this and that and this and ooh and and ah through life. It's like using a machete, cutting through the forest, trying to find food, right? Like, like I want to grow with God. I want to live life the way that it was designed to be lived, before the fall. And I think that's what God invites us into. In heaven, there's no struggle. And you can live in heaven because heaven lives in you. The kingdom of heaven truly is within. So as much as we're conscious of God and his presence, I think we have access to this reality. Right?
Yeah. Wow. So great, Josh. Yeah. I know that's going to encourage single men listening. So
yeah,
thanks so much. Okay. Last thing, we'll wrap up with this. Let's say there's, single men listening, they've listened to this whole episode, 40 minutes, and now, okay, awesome. This guy Josh's story, like, was going to be this great football player, kind of hit this low point. Now it sounds like, he's gotten out of it. It sounds like he's hit this flow, this shalom, this peace, which is great. But, I don't personally know Josh. Like, why should I care what he has to say? Like, what would one takeaway be that you'd want all the single men listening to kind of hear, but maybe take a note down on their phone, action item heading into the weekend?
Yeah. And I mean, look, I haven't made it by any means. I mean, I think I like where I'm at, frankly, because in retrospect to, where I've been, I think that this is where I've always wanted to be. Frankly, it's not a specific place or with a specific person. It's in a specific reality. We're looking for a city that's not built with human hands, right? That's what Abraham was looking for, whose designer and builder is God. You're not looking for anything physically in this world. And even if you've gotten what it is that you thought you've wanted, after a while, it loses its luster. You're looking for a place called home, right? And I feel like I'm there. And that's not even like, like I've reached it. It's something that you realize because the work's been done. It's been done in Christ. And it's just something, again, being still in God's presence, you realize, like, he's God and I am not. And the more that we could spend time in his presence, just receiving from him in quiet moments of reflection and prayer, I think, again, the more that this becomes a lived reality and experience. But I'd say that, like, you're going to suffer in life. You are going to suffer. And I think that once you understand that, it right sizes you to know what you are to experience. And that when you just suffer, you don't throw in the towel, oh, this is too much. You are going to suffer. It will be excruciating, it will be difficult, and it will be painful. And you are going to want to quit. Once you understand that, when you start to suffer, it's not going to be a confusing thing. In the Bible, Jesus says, in this world, you'll have tribulation. Take heart, I've overcome the world.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd say that to every single man that's trying to, and it's not even your power, your works, so to speak, but there is, I'd say, a certain resistance I feel like you have to kind of employ, and God will continue to give you grace as you grow in it. And obviously, there is forgiveness for those, that are walking in the way and maybe they slip and they fall. But in whatever it is that you're trying to do, you will suffer. There will always be resistance, and there will always be just things that get in the way, obstructions to any goal that you look to achieve. So I give you that.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, great conversation. I know it's going to encourage single men listening. So really appreciate you coming over today and being vulnerable and being bold and sharing your story.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So really appreciate everybody tuning in for this week's episode. If it encouraged you, I would love for you to text the link to a friend of yours, maybe a friend that you think would relate to Josh's story. And maybe you're trying to get a friend to experience that shalom, that peace that he talked about. So really appreciate everybody tuning in, and hope you have a great rest of your Friday. We'll be back next week with another new episode. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Single Man Podcast. If someone you know would benefit from this week's episode, I'd love for you to text them the link and invite them to listen. You never know how a simple invitation could change someone's life. We'll be back next Friday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, with a new episode. Until then, check out the video version of the podcast on YouTube, and you can engage with us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.